All right, so it's crunch time. I got about 3 weeks to get this car put together. I've been waiting on my gears from Liberty Gear, my face-plated gears, and I honestly don't think they're gonna come in time for me to get this thing back together. So I got on Facebook Marketplace and found another T56. You know, I looked for a while. Everybody's wanting anywhere from $1,500 to $2,500. So I found one that had a fifth gear issue, and I was kind of hesitant to get it at first because I was like, man, this thing could be destroyed. It looked like it'd been sitting out in the weather. So I kind of messaged the guy back and forth a few times, and I finally, he wanted $600 for it, which is a really good deal, but he was unknown about the transmission. He was told it had a fifth gear issue. So I took the drive and looked at it. I offered him $450, he took it. And honestly, I think the only thing it's gonna be, I can't get it to go into fifth gear, so I think the keys and springs are broke on the fifth gear hub. So hopefully that'll be a super easy fix. You just pop the back of the housing off, fix that. And like I said, on my other transmission, I'm deleting fifth and sixth gear anyway, so I can use the parts from that to put in this trans to get it going. So I'm gonna take that to the car wash and wash it. And another thing, I got my parts car, the silver Corvette at my house. I need to get it here, get it tore apart, get the differential out of it so I could swap our gears in. And just so happened 2 days after I bought the transmission, one of those popped up on Facebook Marketplace for $300. So I'm like, gotta get it. And it's a 342 gear, which is being changed, but those things bring good money. So I got a good deal on all that. I'm gonna take them to the car wash now, wash them up, and I'm gonna get the transmission fixed, go ahead and swap our gears, and we gotta get this thing in. This thing is just been sitting. I got sick last week and wasn't able to work on it. Then I took my wife somewhere and we hung out for the weekend, and yeah, it doesn't look like nothing's got done. I did get my bash bars dropped off at the powder coater, getting those done. And what else? Got a bunch of wiring stuff we still have to finish up once the motor's in, stuff like oil temp. I got to get the AccuSump wired up, but it's all going to come together quick. So once I got there and seen the transmission, you know, stuff like that, it looks rusty, but it wasn't as bad as I expected. But yeah, we'll pop this rear housing off and see what our fifth and sixth gear looks like. But if I had to guess, I'm gonna say the keys broke and the rings caught up, so you can't shift into fifth. And our differential, pretty dirty stuff. I'm gonna clean them up. So one Thursday afternoon after I got done working on some cars, I took the back of the transmission apart, and as you can see, is exactly what I said it was gonna be. The keys and the actual keys broke and let the springs hang up the gears. But everything was pretty destroyed. You could tell somebody tried to force the transmission into fifth gear at some point. So I just took all the stuff from my original trans. Everything looked perfect, and I just popped it in. Trans is sweet. So we got us a good trans. And you can see this is the TIG Performance slave cylinder gap tool. It was actually a really pleasurable moment to use because it took the guesswork out of it. So I recommend this a lot. And we got the clutch and stuff on. I got the motor in the car. Like, things went quick. And as you can see here, I took and rebuilt the differential. You know, I had all these new parts. I actually bought the factory, like, GM dealer tools off eBay from like techs that were selling the stuff used, because the price of these tools are ridiculous. This is one tool that I couldn't find used, and it's for taking the pinion nut off. So I made my own. You know, that tool is like $450. So yeah, I made my own out of an old ring of pinion nut. And the powder coater knocked it out of the park with my bash bars. You can see I got the differential housing. Like, we're jumping all over the place here, but yeah, like, this diff was pretty fun to put together. You know, it was something I've never done before because you gotta have these special tools, and I'm glad I got them now. But yeah, the car come along pretty quick, and I was super excited. This is all my FDF stuff that I bought, the rear dual caliber setup. My buddy Josh at Finishing Lines hooked me up with some brake caliber hoses to be able to use the Willwood calibers that come with the kit. So that was super nice. But yeah, this is the kit, and that is actually a VHS tape that the dealer techs used to have to watch back in the day. Like, and it was unopened. Like, a lot of these tools never even got used, and I'm just thankful I had them. And right here, I was able to use the TIG Performance speed sensor that they sell for 4L80s, 4L60s. And I had to take and use an adjustable reamer to ream the hole open like 3 thou to get it to slide in, but it works great. As you can see, this is like my final pattern that I got. The gear set up super nice. This is a 390 gear. Like, it was a cakewalk. And this is the Holley screen installed with the Mako Motorsports bezel. Went in flawless. It was a little trimming I had to do, but it bolted right up. I'm stoked on the Holley screen. Like, it is sick. And the oil cooler setup turned out to be exactly what I wanted. Like, it worked out amazing. You can see the spacers and the bolts I used to hold it on. Then we have our one-way valve because we have an AccuSump, and if we need to use it, it doesn't back up through the oil coolers. And I went with the improved racing oil cooler block, I guess you can call it. There, you can see we had our trans diff mount. I'm gonna tell you, FDF killed it with this kit. This kit went on so easy, and it allowed me to use the factory e-brake, which is a big thing for me. But it was a super nice kit. I love so much easier to work on than the Drift HQ one that I originally had. I actually got the C6 headers on the car too, and they were a pretty tight fit, but they fit really well. And I'm not gonna put the Corsa Sport back on it anymore, or Corsa Extreme that I had on it. And we made it to the dyno. Like, when I say I did not record a whole lot of nothing, but we made it to the dyno. The car did not make the power that I expected it to. You know, we made a lot of torque. Yeah, we made like stock LS3 power, which is, I'm still thinking about changing the cam. I don't know yet. I mean, spoiler, I already went and took the car out. We did an event with it, and the car felt absolutely amazing. Even at 350 horsepower, which is what you see here, the car ripped. Like, it ripped way better than it did last year. All right, so I know that was probably a lot to take in. That was just a bunch of rambling. So what I actually did was I just put a bunch of the clips that I actually did record and just kind of done a voiceover on them. So yeah, it was kind of jumping all around. Sorry about that. But present day, we've already done one event with the car, hurt the car, so we gotta fix some stuff. But I figured I wanted to at least show what I had done for it. I hate that I didn't record more, but it come down to a time crunch. You know, I got sick one week, then the next weekend I had plans with the wife, gotta keep her happy. So pretty much I had about 2 weeks to finish the car, and if I would have took time to make a video, because it takes a lot of effort to make a video that people want to watch, and you might not even made it this far. If you did, I appreciate you sticking around. Yeah, the car, it ripped. It did not make the power that I wanted it to. I had Tick Performance spec me out a cam for it. It did make a good bit of torque. I think we made a little over 400 foot-pounds of torque, around 3,800 RPM, which is, you know, it resembles a truck cam to me. The way it makes the torque, but not power. So normally on a dyno, my buddy Dave's dyno at Shift Fast, you know, stock LS3 Camaro, Corvette, they make around 350, 360. And you throw a cam at them, some headers, and you know, they're making 440, 450 easy. And this time I wanted to go with a custom cam just to kind of like give me some power down low. And we might have made the wrong choice because, I mean, even though it makes the torque, it is not making the power. But I will say, after this event, it did rip. It ripped really well. But in the back of my mind, I'm just like, something's not right. You know, I wanted to make a little more. And honestly, I feel like it can make more. So we're probably gonna end up doing maybe a Michigan Motorsports drift cam, like my buddy Zach Calvin. He runs that in his Camaro and his Corvette. And they got one for LS3s and LS1s. So I might end up doing that. BTR had a drift cam, but I don't think they're gonna make any more of those because there's another cam that's pretty close to the same specs. So we're either gonna go between a BTR or, you know, a Michigan Motorsports cam. But I figured I would go over, show you the car, show you if cool, because there's a bunch of cool things I've done in this car, and I'm excited about a bunch of it. Like the Holley worked flawless. Love how it's done and where I got it mounted. I'm in love with the Holley system. It's so much better than the HP tuners. One thing I do got to do is my cable throttle that I made for it. I bought everything from Motion Raceworks, the cable, the bracket, but the way I welded the pedal, it's a little close to the firewall, so it causes the cable to kind of bind a little bit. So I'm gonna have to revisit that and reconstruct how I did that. But other than that, everything worked flawless. So let's go over here and take a look at the car, and I'll start showing you a couple things. And then the next video is gonna be actually the event. I didn't record a whole lot at the event either because, you know, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock Friday night, usually when I leave to go to the track, you know, I like to get there early. You know, I was still working on the car till almost 8 o'clock at night, and I got it loaded up, and I told my wife, I was like, let's just stay home, because usually I drive through the night, get there, it's about 2 hours away, and we unload everything Friday night, and that way Saturday morning we just get there, have a easy day. Yeah, I was still working on the car at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night, Friday night. So let's go over here and take a look at it. So as you can see, car is pretty beat. So actually what happened was, you know, I did the new FDF dual caliber setup, and it works amazing. But the damage up there happened because of where my handbrake is now. As you can see, I didn't even have time to finish putting my radio bezel in. So this handbrake is absolutely amazing. You know, being right beside the steering wheel, it just, because during the competition last year, my other handbrake was over there, if you've watched any of the other videos, and I was reaching for it all weekend. But there was one time in particular, my buddy Carter in his 350Z, I tried to dive in on him pretty hard, and instead of grabbing this one, I reached over to grab that one, and it was not there anymore, and I just hit him right in the back. So, as you can see, we broke the headlight cover. Bumper it's been destroyed to begin with, but I tore the fender up. The fiberglass tub that holds the fender, which I don't bolt the front of the fender to this anymore, just to make it easier to get the fender on and off. But that's not a big deal. So I'm gonna have to probably come off the frame and make some custom mounts to kind of hold all this, because all this is kind of floppy. But yeah, the fenders are pretty expensive. One thing I will say is me having the bash bar saved my car. So the bash bar caught all the force and actually bent it. It bent it in towards the wheel, and I was able to use the trailer, as you can see in this clip here. I was able to pull it back out, and like even the tow hook got bent straight up, which I'm gonna go ahead and just cut that off because I do not like how it's coming through the bumper. But yeah, if it wouldn't have had the bash bar, the way I hit him, you know, it would have got into this fiberglass tub here, and it would probably got into the wheel, because I hit him really hard. And we're still on the mini kit from FDF. I'm telling you, the kit just works. So what we got here is another Facebook Marketplace find. I set a ZR1 fiberglass, like replica fenders. Don't really like them, but these fenders here are $450 a piece. I got 2 of them for $400. But like I said, I don't like them. You know, like you can see where they go around the headlight. They're kind of not shaped correctly, which I know with fiberglass stuff, you gotta kind of shape it how you want it. All right, so we're jumping around again. So AccuSump worked really well. We got a C6 Can-N filter set up on it. I had to cut up to make work, which kind of hurt my soul. You would probably never even be able to tell this car was on a Holley system by just looking at it, because you know, everything is pretty much hidden and run almost like the factory run it. I got the LS3 covers covering everything. Over on that side, I'll show you. Factory fuel line's connected, but if you look, I have a nitrous like fuel line feed adapter on. And you can see over there, I got a low dollar motorsports fuel pressure sensor that's plugged in. Gives me my fuel pressure reading. But I just love how you can look at this and you'd never know it had a Holley on it. It looks super clean. My buddy, Matt Happel from Sloppy Mechanics hooked me up with a alternator power feed What it does is it robs power from one of the coil packs, the feed disc, and there's a resistor in line. Alternator works flawless. One thing about the Hollies, they won't let you control the alternator. Like, it doesn't come in the harness, so you have to get it working yourself, which is easy. You just wire in a resistor to 12 volts. But what I love about this kit, it just plugs right up. Whenever I was doing the C6 intake, the LS3 MAF sensor was in there. I didn't have nowhere to put my intake air temperature, so I had a little piece of carbon fiber laying around. So I kind of traced it out and popped a hole in it, and yeah, it worked out pretty good. Man, there's just so much to go over. Yeah, the car worked amazing. One of my buddies gave me a set of these carbon fiber side skirts. It had damage right there, but for the car itself, it's the perfect amount of damage. What else can we go over? Having a jack point right here, absolutely amazing. So I figured I'd show you where the Holley's at. I had this random piece of black metal laying around. I think it come out of an old toolbox. But the holes for the glove box, 10 mil, like the M6 bolts, they lined up perfect. Like I didn't even have to drill the holes. It was the craziest thing. I was able to bolt that plate of metal in, and then I had some machine screws I was able to put through, drill some holes in that, and put some nuts on the backside. And it come with a Holley Terminator sticker, and I just stuck it on a piece of metal. But that thing is solid. It's out of the way, easy to access if need to be. So that kind of worked out. So another one of the big things I broke, other than the damage on the car, the differential. The driver's side output shaft coming out of the diff. It's a common problem with these Vettes, the brake. And you know, when I was rebuilding the differential, I had it in my hand looking at it, and I'm like, man, I should have ordered a hardened output shaft, and I didn't. I was like, oh, it ain't broke yet. Last run of the day, it broke. And it wouldn't have been the last run of the day if it didn't break, but it decided to break. I was trying to finish the tires off. I was running a set of accelerators just to try, because they had a sale, and I bought 2 to try, because everybody talks about how good they are. On this car, they have no grip. From the start to the end, you know, I was running them at 15 PSI, no grip. It made for a fun time tire, I guess you could say, for the price that I paid for them, but as far as like grip, it's not a Kenda. All right, back to the output shaft. So I went ahead and ordered a hardened output shaft. So as soon as that comes in, I'm gonna pull the diff back out, pull it apart, and fix it. I got the one out of my old diff I could put in it, but you know, it's such a common thing to fail. I don't wanna keep pulling the diff in and out, taking it apart to keep breaking those. When it happened, I thought it was the axle. And, you know, I got on the horn, hurried up, found an axle at AutoZone. I was like, all right, well, let's go get it. And right before we left, I was like, let me make sure it's the axle. Because even though I looked under and the boot was ripped, I'm like, all right, so it's the axle. But I reached up and grabbed it and pulled it out of the diff, and the shaft was actually broke in half. So I'm like, well, that sucks. So as far as the temps go, this thing, I couldn't get it warm. You know, I hot lapped a bunch. And you know, the coolant, and you know, it would come up to 185, 190, and like I got it set up to where the fans come on at 180, cut off at 170. This thing would just, you know, I could do 5-6 laps back to back. I wouldn't even get to 200 degrees, and you know, I'd be coming through the pits, and it would just be dropping immediately. And oil temp, running 2 oil coolers, I had a hard time even getting the temp above 150, which was absurd. Like, last year, you know, I could do 4 laps and oil temps would be 230, 240, and I would have to go off and stop. It wasn't a hot day by no means. It was probably in the 60, 65. So it was a cool day, but it gives me hope to this summer of not running the car hot, which I never had a problem with it running hot last year. You know, I could get it up to 220 after 4 or 5 laps, and you know, it wouldn't get past that. But like, I want to be able to keep it under control. And it's working. Like, coolant system's dialed. One thing I will say is oil temps is more important than probably coolant temps, because if you can't get your oil temps under control, you know, your coolant temps are going to skyrocket with it. So, you know, if your car is running 200 degrees, but your oil temps are 250, 260, you know, it's gonna continue to absorb that heat from the oil, and it's gonna get hot. So, you know, I look at oil temp more than I do even coolant temp, because if oil temp's under control, coolant temp's normally under control. So what I'm actually running is a Low Dollar Motorsports. It's like a race pack oil temp sensor. I'm running it straight to the Holley screen, and it works good. I got a flip switch. I'll show you here. So I don't have none of this stuff installed yet. It's just kind of like wired up. But this switch right here, these wires are straight from the sending units in the gas tank. The dark blue one right here, that's the driver's side tank. And the light blue is the passenger side tank. And this middle wire is your, it's actually going straight to the back of the Holley screen. So the Holley screen provides me a sensor ground that's going to the sending unit. And these two wires here, the way I have it wired up is, if it's on the blue, if I got it flipped where it's at now, it's got this wire coming through, going back out to the Holley screen. It lets me know how much gas is in the driver's tank. And if I flip the switch, it goes to the passenger side, and it allows me to see what that tank's got in it. So let's turn the key on, and I'll kind of give you an idea of how that works. Love this Holley screen. I wanted to be able to see, you know, temps and fuel level. So you can see fuel level right here. That's the driver's side tank. And the way the Corvette works is it tries to empty the passenger side. And once the passenger side's empty, it starts using all the fuel from the driver's side. So it always tries to keep the driver's side tank full. So that's the driver's side tank. It's starting to use that fuel. I just flip the switch to the passenger side tank. And the way, I don't have the scaling 100% right. The full part is 100% on, but far as being empty, I still got to rescale for that, because right around 44, 45 is empty. So I need to go through and do some more settings with that. But right now at 45, 44, that tank's empty, and I know that. So I'm go back to the driver's side tank, and it goes up. So pretty cool. You can see my oil temp, my water temp's pretty close. So another thing here, you know, this is for my radio. This is for the AccuSump. So pretty much what I do when I get in the car is I hop in, I flip the switch on, and that dumps all the oil out of the AccuSump and pre-lubes the motor. So you can see the light flashing, oil. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna flip the switch on, and it dumps all the oil that's in the AccuSump, and then you can crank the car. So you can see before every start, I'm able to pre-lube the motor. I'm able to, you know, get oil pressure up before I even do the fire. And I feel like that's gonna help preserve the motor a lot longer than just cranking it, because this car might sit for a month at a time before I even touch it. And you know, most cars are fine to crank up, whatever. I got the ability to pre-lube the motor before I crank it, so I use it. So it works pretty good. And again, I'm sorry, I know this video is just absolutely all over the place. So I just want to show you a few more things before we go. Tick performance shifter, absolutely amazing. Oh, another thing. You can see it won't go to reverse. The Holley is controlling the reverse lockout. I wired it up. Pretty much the reverse lockout gets power all the time, and all I did was run the ground to the Holley output, and I got it set up to in a parameter. Anything under 400 RPM, the solenoid's cut off, and anything over 1300 is cut off. So what that means is if the car's not running, you know, it doesn't work, like I can turn the key on, it won't go in, but if I fire it up, see, now it's locked again. So the Holley's controlling reverse lockout, so I can't accidentally slam it into reverse. So that's pretty cool. That's one thing, a big thing I wanted to get going, and it works good. Handbrake. So a lot of people, you know, handbrake, I feel soft at sometimes. If you don't use it, like with my old one, I'd have to like pump it a couple times so it to feel firm. With this one, what I did was, the way I come off of here with my line, I run it right through here, and right under the console, there's a residual valve, 2-pound residual valve that I plumbed in line. And it keeps the calipers pushed out to the rotor to where they're not dragging, but it just gives me a firm handbrake at all times, and it works so good. So I'm definitely glad I took the extra time to plumb that valve in, and it worked out anyway, because my Drift HQ line, it would only come to right here, so it wouldn't even reach all the way up to the FDF hydro master cylinder. So I had to buy an extra line anyway. I didn't have time to have my buddy Josh from Finishing Lines to get me a line coming, because I needed the line. Actually, what I done was I went to put this stuff in, and I realized my line was gonna be short, so I went ahead and ordered a line off Amazon, and it come the next day, which was great, and I was able to get it plumbed out. If I wouldn't have done that, I wouldn't have been able to have my handbrake for the weekend. So yeah, the residual valve is a game changer for keeping the thing firm. So like I said, I'm sorry for this video just being a mess and all over the place. You know, part of me doesn't even want to post it because it is just such a mess. But I wanted to keep you up to date, and if you made it this far, you're a trooper, and I appreciate you. But I guess that's gonna be it. The next video I'm gonna throw together, my buddy Keyshawn was able to get me some clips, so I'll throw a little video together of the event. I didn't record a whole lot, so I'll just make kind of like a little montage of the event. We had some sick tandems. The car did absolutely amazing. I'm actually gonna probably call Taylor Ray and discuss him, because the spring rates I have on this car, I feel like the car could do better. Even though it feels absolutely amazing, I feel like it could do better. So I have an FDF Mega Mantis kit coming for it, and you know, I wanted to have it put on before the first event, but you know, I barely got done what I got done. But I want to get that done. But I'm thinking I want to change my spring rates. I feel like the car could be faster coming out of the corners. You know, I'm running 14K in the rear and 20K in the front. So, you know, I'm struggling to find grip. I'm not running that big of a tire because we can't run but a 245 for the comp. So I don't want to get used to a 265 that I used to run and then have to go to a 245. So I'd rather just practice on the tire I'm going to be using for comp. But I want to discuss with Taylor what he thinks of changing the spring rate. You know, I'm thinking with maybe going down to like a 12 or 14 in the front, since I run a sway bar again. When I first spec'd the springs, I said, screw sway bars. I don't want sway bars. And then listening to Chelsea DeNofa talk about sway bars, you know, it don't cost you nothing to put them on and try them. I put the sway bar back on the front, and the car immediately felt smoother. So I'm like, all right. So I bought a Part Shop Max sway bar for this. That way it can clear the big angle. I haven't put it on yet because the factory C6, when I put on it, is clearing everything for the time being. But I want to think about changing the spring rate. You know, maybe dropping the rear to a 10 from a 14, and maybe dropping the front to a 14 coming from a 20. But I honestly feel like the car could be faster coming out of the corners. But I'm trying to progress. I'm trying to become a better driver. I'm trying to make the car work to its full potential. But all right, so I'm gonna end this one here. I appreciate you watching. Like I said, if you've made it to the end, you're a trooper, and I thank you for that. So if you don't mind, hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you in the next one.